After watching and, like, also reading a ton of interviews with the Wachowskis and their, like, creating of The Matrix and even the trilogy, I found a lot about, like, how they were influenced by filmmakers from Asia. So in the video interview that I put in the link, they talk a lot about, like, the influence by Japan, like, Japanese anime, and they reference Ghost in the Shell and Akira, and the concept of, like, virtual reality world, and then, like, blending reality and the elements in the Matrix to show parallels with, like, themes that are found in a lot of anime. Um, I also, after watching the clip of King Hu's Touch of Zen, the filmmaker King Hu's Touch of Zen reminds me a lot of, like, the secrecy when after Zen took the red pill, I think it was the red pill, to go into the other world. Reminds me of, like, how the group went back and they, like, opened the door and they're all wearing glasses and they're, like, in all black. Um, in the clip of King Hu's film, I watched the bamboo, and, like, it was taking place in the bamboo forest. I don't really know a lot of background of it, but it was these, like, four people, and they were kind of, like, hiding and, like, watching these two people on horses, like, come through the forest. And they're watching them super carefully, and you could, like, tell something was, like, building up, like, an attack. And I feel like the same thing happened when the group from the Matrix went back into the Matrix, like, world. And so it reminded me of that. And then another thing that it reminded me of was in the end when the Agent Smith was hell-bent in trying to get to Neo, and they were fighting back and forth and went face to face together, because at the end of the bamboo clip, two people with swords are fighting against each other. And then in The View, how did this influence change the direction of American cinema in the 1990s? Like, obviously, I just have, like, an opinion, but I think the influence changed the direction of American cinema. Obviously, the Touch of Zen was created in the 1970s, so their, like, CGI and all of that isn't really as great as The Matrix was. But I think that throughout the clip, it makes sense that a lot of the clips they took were from anime movies, because I think that they're like, the theme of it, they all, like, are really substantial. I think the fighting scenes in any of I've seen Sarku before, like, an anime movie, so I kind of have, like, a little bit of background on it of it. And I think that it influenced the way Americans would incorporate the fighting scenes, because it's all about the build-up. The people watching are, like, from afar, either one person or a group, and then eventually they sneak up on a guy or girl, or even the group, and they start fighting. I also think that during the scene I watched, there was barely any talking going on, which I think can leave the audience a little bit confused on, like, why they're fighting. Obviously, I only saw a clip, so I was, like, I didn't get a full background on, like, what was going on. But I think in The Matrix, when during the fighting scenes, there's more dialogue between the two that are fighting. So it not only catches people's eye more because they're really intensely watching, because one, they want to see how the fight ends, but two, if people are saying stuff back and forth, you want to hear what they're saying. Like I said it adds a little contrast to the fighting, keeps viewers at the edge of their seats. I also think that when I watch the scene, I mean, the other anime show that I've seen and the scene from Touch of Zen, there's no location change. They stay in the same place and they fight with the swords, and then one person wins and one person loses. I liked how in The Matrix, in the last scene specifically, that Neo and Agent Smith kind of jumped from location, whether that be when they're on the side of the train tracks to when Neo kind of pushed Agent Smith onto the train tracks, and then he, like, comes out of the train. I think that it adds more, like, of a dynamic and contrast, like I said again. And I think that The Matrix, they're influenced to change scene and location just to make people more interested in watching. So that is basically it. I'm just going to touch upon the influence that the Wachowskis had when they, like, discuss how they were influenced by filmmakers. when I was reading, they don't really do a lot of press or like talk shows, or that's like what a lot of people said. But in the one interview, I think it was Lana or Lily, one of them was talking about like philosophical influences and like Eastern philosophies such as Buddhism, just how it contributes to the film's like exploitation of reality and like figuring out like what is real and what is fake. And even when they were creating the trilogy, one of them was talking about how they wanted the audience to kind of feel their own emotions and like feel what they want to feel about the movie rather than like the movie telling you how to feel or how to act like throughout like the movie. As well, she said, oh, I forget. She was talking about how choices, how she was like, and a lot of this comes from the philosophical influences on the choice. Like, do you really have a choice? Like, what you end up picking, like, was that really a choice in the end? And she talks a lot about that with like Neo in the trilogy. So that is basically it.